Hey, Ed here from 10,000 Foot View, and I've got another Google Ads quick tip for you today. Just before I jump in, a reminder to please like our content and subscribe to the channel. We post on Google Ads once or twice every week. So today I'm going to be looking at conversion tracking inside of Google Ads and more specifically the various settings. I'm going to go through kind of each one and talk about kind of how you would set these in different scenarios. So without further ado, I've pulled up a conversion that in this case is a lead generation type conversion, essentially a lead form that gets submitted by users. So the conversion name, you can name them if you're creating them directly in Google Ads with the Google Ads tag. If you import them from a third-party service like GA4, you can still edit the name in most cases, but I recommend against doing that because what it does is it makes it hard to reconcile, particularly if you have a large number of conversions. If you go back and try to figure out, well, which one's GA4 and how does this map to Google Ads, it's going to make it difficult. So just as kind of best practice, try not to change the names unless you really have to for goals that you're importing. In terms of the action optimization, this just kind of describes the type of conversion, in this case, submit lead forms, and then the action. And so there are two types of actions. There's primary actions and secondary actions. And primary actions get counted in conversions automatically. So that means if you look at your conversion columns in your inside your campaigns or your ad groups or your ads, those numbers, whatever comes in from this conversion will be included there. If you choose secondary action, then those conversions or these conversions will not be counted in those columns or in any conversion calculations, but you can still see those if you look at the all conversions columns. So that's a bit of a weird thing if you haven't worked with it before. But secondary conversions, as an example, might be people using your chat box, or it might be people visiting 5+ pages on your website. And it's more typically used for like engagement metrics, and it can be like kind of useful information, but it's not something you consider like a business action that is very clear cut. Somebody contact you about your services. So that's where primary and secondary come in. And then you have the value, and the value in most cases, if you're creating a Google Ads conversion directly in here, will default to $1. And that's fine under certain scenarios where you're just really counting conversions and you don't care about the value. But if you're using value-based conversion tracking, then you definitely want to try to assign meaningful values to each conversion so that you can track the revenue or estimated revenue in the case of leads through here. You can also have variable values, and that usually the easiest way to implement that is through GA4. But you can definitely do it with the Google Ads tag as well. It's more commonly used on e-commerce websites, but you can implement that for leads as well, just using variables. And then the source website, this just refers to using the Google Ads tag directly. If you are using GA4, it would say GA4. You could also be importing this from a third-party tool like CallRail, and then it would use something like external clicks, I believe is the terminology. But this isn't that important. It just kind of tells you where the conversion is coming from. And then the count. So this is very important. Typically for lead gen, you only want to count one conversion because if that person fills in your web form 3 times over the course of 1 week, it's not 3 different leads. It's the same lead. They've just contacted you 3 times. So generally, you only want to count that individual 1 time. Just be clear though that if you have 2 different conversions, so this implementation guide download is one, and the other one is maybe like just a general contact form. If that same user fills out both of those, even though this is one conversion, each of those conversion types can count the one conversion. So you'd end up with two. So just a small thing to be aware of. Where you would count all conversions would be typically be on like an e-commerce website or something where people can sign up multiple times for something. So each time they take that action, it adds more value. But for lead gen, usually one conversion is where you want to be. Now, the next three fields are all about the attribution window. And what this means is after a click happens, how long will Google retain that click data and track a conversion against that original click? Um, the maximum for most conversion types is 90 days. For calls, it's 60. We usually just do the maximum because more is better in almost all cases. There are a few edge cases where you want to track less, but 90 days, you're just going to collect the maximum amount of conversion data, which generally is going to be better because it's going to give you more insights. It's going to feed more conversions into Google Ads, which in turn allows more optimization to happen and for better automated bidding. The next one is engaged view conversion window. And so this is for if somebody views your ad but doesn't click on it and then converts, then you would have tracking for 3 days. And then this is viewed through. These are a little bit different. I'm not going to get into the difference of these, but the important thing is these will still not, if they're actually like just a view through conversion that somebody doesn't click on your ad, they will not be counted as regular conversions. There is a separate set of columns that you can pull up to see your engaged view and your view through conversions. So for most advertisers, this is not that important. It's more like if you're running display campaigns and you want to see are those leading to other conversions in your account incrementally. Then the next one is attribution. And attribution is the model that Google uses to track conversions. And by that, data driven, really what it does is it looks at all of the clicks that happen prior to the conversion happening, and it assigns value based on where along the client or the customer journey that happened, and then what actions were taken after they visited in each click. And Google, of course, doesn't disclose exactly how this is calculated, and it's completely variable. But generally speaking, like early on, like the first click is going to have more value, and the last click is going to have more value. Clicks in between have less. The other attribution model you can use is last click. Most advertisers have gone away from that, but what that does is just it will only track a conversion if the conversion happens immediately after the Google Ads click. And there's a little more nuance to it, like with direct visits and things, but basically that's what it is. So for most advertisers, you really should be using data driven because it better reflects conversion value and conversion quantity across all of the clicks that a user takes, which is just more a realistic way to look at how people actually transact on the web these days. Enhanced conversions is a way that Google can track user information such as name and email address to basically improve the tracking rates. So let's say you only achieve 70% tracking rates without enhanced conversions, you might get like 85% with enhanced conversions. So it's just a way to get more robust conversion data. So typically you're going to see more conversions if you're able to activate this. There are a few different ways to do it. The automated way almost never works. So you typically have to go through Google Tag Manager and do some configuration so that Google can understand what those fields are on your contact form page. So it's a bit of work to it. Definitely worth doing because again, more conversion data is better. Um, then the last thing is the tag setup. So this is really if you're using the Google Ads tag implementation, and this just gives you the code that you're going to insert onto your website. I'm not going to go into that. Okay, and that is basically it for conversion configuration. So hopefully that informs you, if you're kind of not aware of what all these settings were, that you have a better understanding now, and you may want to have a look at your current conversion setup, and see if that could use some optimization. Anyway, that is it for me today, and I will see you next time.